This is part 2. Part 1 was on Thursday, where we discussed Birmingham to Norwich. Today, we're looking at Oxford to Wrexham, and we'll start with the aforementioned Oxford United. Just to kick us off, who is their key player in your mind this coming season?
I've gone with Cameron Brannigan. I won't lie, I wanted to pick Mikkel Helik because he's a fantastic defender, but also an excellent goal scorer and scorer of pivotal goals. However, if you need a player who I think is going to make or break for a team, it's Cameron Brannigan. I think he's carried a heavy burden in recent years and only played 33 games last season, so he missed a quarter of games. But his passing, his range of passing, i.e. the big diags that he does, it really helps with the go-out system of playing in terms of switching the ball up, freeing up wingers in space, and getting out of position and creating space for others. So you need good players to make those passes, and Brannigan's that guy. Set pieces are a big advantage as well, but he's a leader off the pitch. He's captain. He's a vital player.
He's also capable of an absolute shit snorter every so often as well, isn't he? Forgot to mention that, Justin, but yeah, he's a wonderful player. I've gone with Oxford's key player as Cameron Brannigan's midfield partner for the season ahead. It's new signing Brian de Keersmaker. Yeah, new signing from Heracles. The main reason I've gone with him is Oxford needed strengthen this summer because they were in a pretty perilous position for most of the final 3 months of the season. If the season were 5 games longer, I wouldn't have been surprised actually if they went down, but that's by the by. They needed to strengthen, and so far they haven't done too much. It looks as if they spent a lot of their budget on old BDK, De Keersmaker, because he is believed to be a club record signing. His energy and robustness in midfield is going to be so important for what I think will be another survival fight this coming season for the U's. And if Oxford have indeed spent a lot of their budget on this guy, then he needs to perform well and justify that fee. Hence why he's going to be key this coming season, Justin.
I am excited by him. I think looking at his numbers and reading about him in a little bit more detail, he fits the Championship ball-winning midfielder very, very well. I think the other thing that makes me quite interested by it is Gary Rowett has done well shopping overseas for players, specifically in the Eredivisie. Ian Fleming is an example I've spoken about before at Millwall. Mikhail Kieftenbeld at Birmingham are just, there's 2 examples there. Casper De Noor coming from Belgium. So, Rowett has got previous with getting a lot out of players coming from overseas. So, whether De Keersmaker, really, really thrives is another question. But I think, for Oxford to spend a decent amount on him, he's clearly a good player. So this could be a very good signing.
Yeah, as I say, I do think Oxford need to get in some more additions, particularly going forwards. But it's going to be very interesting to see how he takes to the old Champo. We'll go to the next club alphabetically, which is, of course, Portsmouth. Who have you gone for a key player at Pompey, Peachy?
I've gone with Callum Lang. Look, he scored 10 in 32 last season, which, by my simple maths, is a 1 in 3-ish strike rate for a team for large periods of the time. We're fighting relegation, specifically when Callum Lang was fit. Obviously, tore his hamstring, so he missed the final stretch of the season. But I think going into the season with a team with less of a burden, I think you're going to get more out of him. This might be quite harsh as well, but will Josh Murphy have another season like last year? Maybe. We've not had evidence of him backing it up year on year, so it'll be interesting to see how he takes. But with Callum Lang, Colby Bishop, Josh Murphy, and another certain playmaker added into that final third, there's a really exciting attack if all fit and firing, which we didn't see often last year, and that could get a lot more out of Callum Lang. I'm really, really excited by what Portsmouth have put together.
Who's that playmaker Justin was just referring to then? Yes, it is, of course, my key player for this coming season. It's the one and only John Swift. And John Swift has gone to Portsmouth on a free transfer, and I think it could be a masterstroke. Because firstly, he's from Portsmouth. He's never actually played for them. He was briefly in their academy, but has never actually made a senior appearance for them. And he's already said it's very nice for him that his family are just 20 minutes away now. But look, maybe his time at West Brom didn't go to plan, but it's easy to forget just how good John Swift was before moving there. We're talking about someone who got 24 goal contributions in his final season at Reading from midfield. He was also the top chance creator in the division. He was unbelievable. And I just look at what John Mousinho did with Josh Murphy last season. Yeah. Now you can see what I'm thinking here, Justin. If Mousinho can perform another Josh Murphy-style rejuvenation of a career with John Swift, this would be an unbelievable move. Even just getting 50% of that player, and he'll make such a difference. So I really like this move. He's only just turned 30, by the way, as well. I thought he was older than that, but he's still got plenty of miles in the tank yet. So, John Mousinho, work your magic, son.
Yeah, this one caught me off guard, mainly because I didn't see him signing again in England. So for him to go back home, it's lovely. What a story.
Why didn't you think he was going to go anywhere else in England?
I just feel like when you get to when you hit 30 and you're not really pulled up too many trees, especially after a bad season, you might look to go to the MLS, or you might look to go and play abroad somewhere. It's just, I wouldn't say a rite of passage for a lot of players who haven't quite hit their potential, but I think John Swift might fill that category a little bit. But nonetheless, he's at Portsmouth, and I think it's a good signing. I do, especially for a team who don't have as big a budget as other teams. The other example I got was Matt Ritchie, and how well or how much he exceeded my expectations last season for a player in his mid-30s going back home. So if anything's to go by there with John Swift, it might be a very, very good signing. Didn't do very well last season. He was in and out of the team. But you go back to the season before that, started the season really well. There's a statistical anomaly, wasn't there, where he scored with every shot on target in some first 7 or 8 games of the season, which is crazy. But we've seen John Swift be really good, but also really shit. I think that's where we've sort of found him. He's not been consistently just above average, if you like. But I think him going to Portsmouth, as I said, that attack of Lang, Bishop, Murphy, and Swift being added to it, I think that's really exciting.
Yeah. I think John Swift, we know what he can do. And yes, he's not getting any younger. His legs look like they're fading, but in terms of technical ability, he can still deliver a whole lot for Pompey going forwards. Let's go to the next club. It's Preston North End. I've gone for their key player as Michael Smith. And Michael Smith's joined Preston after agreeing to terminate his contract at Sheffield Wednesday, so he's managed to save himself from the dumpster fire. But how does it look for Preston? Well, put it this way. Considering they lost their top scorer in Emil Rees on a free transfer this summer, and they've replaced him with Daniel Jebison and now Michael Smith, I would say it's difficult to argue that they're not downgrades. In fairness to Smith, he's been good for a handful of goals each season at Championship level. He scored that unbelievable goal for Wednesday against Portsmouth last season. And in the air, he's one of the best in the division. But we are talking about someone here who started just 27 games over the past 2 seasons in a Wednesday team that wasn't exactly flushed with great striker options. He's not a prolific finisher, and he does turn 34 in a few months' time. So if Preston are done in terms of signing strikers now, then I'd be worried, because when your striking options are Smith, Jebison, and Militon as Majic, who spends half the season suspended, that doesn't fill me with confidence. So they need Smith to have a good season, hence why I've picked him as their key player.
I think there are very few players in the Championship who possess the Michael Smith attributes. So I do think, as a secondary striker, he could do really well, and he might create a very effective partnership alongside Daniel Jebison. We don't know, but like you, I would be concerned if a 33/34-year-old Michael Smith is your stellar striker signing, if you like. It's not disrespectful to him, but he's getting older. He's not been prolific throughout his career, as we know. Did score 8 goals last season, which for a squad player for a mid-table team in Sheffield Wednesday is very impressive. And I think if you embrace playing very direct, you can get a lot out of Michael Smith and therefore others around him, which I'm sure will be the case. But it does just leave a lot of question marks surrounding Preston's recruitment this summer and whether or not they've actually got better.
Yeah, I think that's a fair question to bring up, Justin. As I say, Michael Smith, if you're looking for someone who's absolutely top quality in the air, he's that man. But it does also kind of indicate what way you're going to be playing for the coming season, and maybe getting a bit one-dimensional at times. Who's your key player for PNE, Justin?
I've gone with Ben Whiteman. I may have picked him last year. I can't quite remember now. But if I look at Preston's squad, as I just alluded to, I still think it's short of quality. I really do. But one player I have always liked is Ben Whiteman. didn't have the best of seasons last year, but who did in a Preston shirt other than Kane Kessler-Hayden? He swept up the player of the season awards for a reason, because no other Preston player really got close to him in terms of consistency and quality. But he's a robust number 6 for those that aren't familiar, and he plays in that deeper role within the midfield, which I think is something that Paul Heckingbottom has always valued. You look at Ollie Norwood, for example, albeit very different sort of profile of player, but he needs that shield in front of a backline. He likes it, does Paul Heckingbottom. So I think Whiteman will once again be very important, especially considering, going out and getting this type of player can be quite, spenny. So he could give the likes of Stefan Thordarson and Mats Frokar Jensen's a bit more of a platform to be a danger further up the pitch.
Yeah, I used to rate Whiteman fairly highly, and I think he was at one point one of the more underrated players in the division, but I don't think he's the player he once was now. I think he was not great last season. He seems to have been on the decline for a while now, but I think a lot of Preston players are perhaps guilty of been doing that over the past couple of seasons. So yeah, it did raise my eyebrows a bit when you picked him as a key player, Justin, but it's all down to personal opinion. I'm more outraged at you saying he's a number 6, because I don't really think of a holding midfielder as a number 6, but I don't really know where else I think of a number 6 when it comes to your number 8s, your number 10s,
I guess it depends how you describe them, but a number 8 is a bit more of a box to box. A 10 is a bit more of an attacking midfielder /
I think of a number
striker.
6 as a centre back personally.
Well, midfield number 6. Then I remember this debate coming up when Claudio Jakob signed for West Brom, which is weird, but it's deep rooted in football culture. So get to know.
Do you think of a number 4 or a number 6 as more of a holding midfielder?
I think you're speaking too much specifically on numbers as opposed to roles.
I'm just asking the question. I'm not
getting I know.
I always go number 2 right back, number 3 left back, then I go 5 and 6 centre half, and then I go number 4 as my holding mid.
But this, again, I think this is just going down to squad numbers as opposed to squad positional roles.
I base mine mainly on the England side from the World Cup 2006.
There we go. Your number 4 is your box to box then, isn't it?
Number 4 was Steven Gerrard. Number 8 was Frank Lampard. Who was number 10? I think it was Owen, actually.
Yeah.
Which doesn't really make sense, because number 10 is usually attacking midfielder, isn't it? Anyway, that's a conversation for another day. Let's get back onto the task at hand, Justin. Queen's Park Rangers are our next team, who we have picking a key player for. Who have you gone for, Justin?
I've gone with Karamoko Dembele. We saw what he's capable of last season in that first third, then injury sort of derailed him a little bit. Chance creation, dribbling, so exciting. And as I say, that injury really sort of pulled his progress back a little bit. Now under Julian Stefan, I think there's so much potential there. And in an attack with the likes of Elias Chair, Kwame Poku, I think this could be one of the most exciting attacks in the Championship next season. I really, really do. Under a manager who we know is, can develop players. Dembele's played in France, so there's a a soft link there, if you like. I'm really excited by what Dembele can do, and as long as he stays fit and doesn't have the injury he had last season, then there's no reason why he can't have a really, really, really good campaign.
Yeah, well, we were really hot on Dembele when he signed for QPR, weren't we? But as you say, he's been blighted with injuries last season. But now that attack of Chair, Poku and Dembele, that looks very, very exciting, as long as they all stay fit, of course. I'm interested to see how they line up in pre-season. I think Dembele's been playing on the left. I would prefer if he was playing down the middle and Chair was on the left. But maybe that'll change as the season goes on, or maybe I'm just reading it completely wrong. I don't know. But yeah, he's someone I'm very excited to see how he gets on this coming season. I've gone as my key player for QPR as Zanchella. Can you hear that, Justin? I can hear neighing in the distance. That's because it's nearly time for us to choose our dark horses for the season. And I have been banging the drum a lot over the summer for QPR. They're not my final choice, but they're definitely in my thinking, and we'll discuss that more in the coming week. But someone who's going to have a big say in whether they are indeed a dark horse this coming season is Zanchella. So, for those who don't follow QPR that closely, you may not know who he is, to be fair. He's a Slovenian striker who they signed for around £2 million last summer. And it's fair to say his first season in the Championship was a bit of a disaster. He looked really bad. He failed to score in his first 16 games, missed a lot of big chances along the way. He finally broke his duck by scoring a brace against Cardiff. And just as he started to find his feet, not long after that, he got injured and didn't play again last season. Now, I look at QPR's strongest 11, and it is strong. My main concerns are in goal, because there's speculation Paul Nardi's leaving, and up front. Based on pre-season, it looks like Zancella is going to be the main striker. So they need him to find form, because they can't afford for him to play like he was last season, Justin, which, as I say, was pretty bad.
Yeah, the annoying thing about Zancella is he's got everything about him to be a good striker, a good forward. I think last season was a case of him coming in, it taking him time to settle. And when a striker isn't scoring, confidence dips. And the unforgiving nature of the Championship and supporters in the Championship, it's difficult. It can be a really difficult place to be. But everything, as I say, numbers-wise as well, points to him being a very, very effective forward. And I know, numbers side don't speak to the mental side of being a striker, but a fresh start this season under a new manager could be a really massive kickstart. So I back this pick. I like it, and I think with a bit of confidence and a lot of supply behind him, by the way, hell of a lot, then I think Zancella can really kick on this season.
Yeah, you can't complain when you've got the supply of the players we mentioned earlier. I've seen QPR being linked with other strikers, so whether he is the starting striker for the majority of the season, we'll wait and see, but it'll certainly help if he finds his goal-scoring boots. Let's go to Sheffield United. They're the next club here. I've gone for their key player as Louis Barry. Louis Barry, who's just joined Sheffield United on loan. And it's a bit of a funny one with him, because back in January, he was the hottest property in the Championship. You had several teams fighting each other to try and get his signature after a brilliant half season at Stockport. Eventually, Hull won that battle, but he got injured after just 4 games and didn't play again. And so now it feels like the hype has significantly dampened down on Barry. But do not underestimate how seriously good a signing this could be, because he was spectacular at Stockport. He was scoring goals for fun, and a lot of them were worldies. A big thing for me is he'll play on the left-hand side, which should hopefully mean Gustavo Hamer can go back to playing more centrally and therefore exert more of an influence on the team. But the bottom line is Barry can be a difference maker for Sheffield United, and he's only just turned 22, by the way. He's got a lot of room to develop. And it seems common knowledge that Aston Villa are willing to sell him. If he does well at Bramall Lane, then they could get him permanently. So yeah, Louis Barry could be a huge bit of business for the Blades this coming season.
I think as well, there's a good physical profile in that forward line, the likes of Kiefer Moore, Tyrese Campbell, Tom Cannon. These are good players, but not much in terms of mobility and spark, which I think Louis Barry will add in abundance. 15 goals in 23 league games last season at Stockport before being recalled in January as well. It is annoying we've not seen him at Championship level owing to picking up an injury as soon as he signed on loan for Hull. But with Sheffield United's recruitment being somewhat of a mixed bag in terms of familiarity, AI-driven, you know what you're getting with Louis Barry. We've all seen the highlight reels. You know what to expect from him, which is a very exciting player who, as you say, can score an absolute worldie. But also, the link up in attack there is an exciting one, a very exciting prospect. Yeah,
it's good for them to sign someone who we do know, unlike the players from Bulgaria who they've been signing so far, because I'm going to assume they're the ones who are AI driven, Justin, because I don't know how else they would have plucked them out of the air. And so, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how much they feature, but you'd have thought Louis Barry is going to be a huge player for Sheffield United this coming season. Who do you think is going to be their key player this season, Justin?
I've gone with Callum O'Hare. Ironically, I think if he was recruited under an AI system, he may have not been signed by Sheffield United, because statistically his numbers don't really come up to much. But I've gone with someone familiar. I feel like last season was a bit of the same old story with O'Hare. Very busy, but numbers-wise, just not really coming up, as I alluded to. 6 assists and scoring 4 in the league is not really blowing anyone away, especially with the hype surrounding him, if you like. Chance creation as well was a touch underwhelming. Dribbling numbers as well were okay, but not spectacular. So it might be a case of him being an eye test player, but nonetheless, Ruben Sellers coming in. He's got a very effective number 10 in his team. He's got Louis Barry as well, who's we know is very mobile and capable. So there's a good dimension in that attack. I want to see more out of Callum O'Hare. He's 27, so how long can we keep saying this? That being said, there is a talented player there. And I think if you're going to want to play a high press system, you need someone of O'Hare's engine in that final third as well.
Yeah, final product. That's always been the thing that we've said with Callum O'Hare, isn't it? He's often flat to deceive in that regard, and we're still yet to see it, even though, as you say, he is 27 now. I'm not sure how much he's going to play next season because, as I say, if Barry does play on the left like I expect him to, then I would imagine Gustavo Hamer is going to play more centrally, assuming he stays. I think O'Hare may have been playing on the wing in pre-season for Sheffield United, but whether that is the case going forwards, I don't know. But yeah, he's obviously a talented player. We know that. It's just about how much he's going to play and whether he can finally start producing when it comes to, goal contributions and what have you. The next club we got, Justin, is Sheffield Wednesday. I've written down for their key player, who the fuck knows?
Yeah. For full clarity, I've suggested the broker trying to sell the club. Yeah. It's just a mess, isn't it? And it doesn't seem to get any better. We've spoken about it for so many weeks now over the summer. It's been basically the main story of the summer, hasn't it? Every single episode we've pretty much started with Sheffield Wednesday, and we're now just 2 weeks away, or less than 2 weeks away from the season starting, and it doesn't seem to have improved. We don't have any more clarity on who's actually going to be playing for them this coming season. You've got Josh Windass and Michael Smith, who have now obviously gone after terminating their contracts. Anthony Masaba and JD Gassimer have both been sold. There's next to no movement in terms of incomings from what I've seen on social media. And at the time of recording, Wednesday have just 10 players over the age of 21. So obviously, Wednesday have plenty of other issues off the pitch, but as far as the actual football is concerned, it's promising to be a fairly miserable campaign for the Owls, isn't it? It is, but there are bigger things at play here, which is the survival of the club and getting it sold and making sure the damage isn't catastrophic. I think that's what we've got to be looking at, and I think with that, the Wednesday fans will still back whoever's put out on the pitch, which is an important thing to add. It's a desperate situation, which I know we want to be excited about, the players at Wednesday and who they're going to be putting out. And I know fans, this is a pivotal time of year to really, really get excited, but that's not the case for Wednesday supporters. So I think it's very, very somber in that sense, but also, you've got to retain that optimism that the club's going to be sold soon, and the shackles of Chancery are released, and the club can really, really fulfill its potential.
Yeah, I've been listening a fair bit to BBC Radio Sheffield and the show they do there, where they have the phone-in and Sheffield Wednesday fans who just repeatedly say they don't care about this season because it's just a write-off, isn't it? We've never had a club prepare for a season as disastrously as this. It's not even preparation, really, is it? It's just kind of damage limitation at this stage. The big concern is obviously going to be if Chancery is at the moment playing hardball, for the lack of a better term, when it comes to selling the club. It's going to be even more difficult to sell it if Wednesday are destined to be playing in League One next season, and you've gone from having a damaged Championship club to a damaged League One club. At the moment, it's looking pretty difficult to see them staying up in the current state, isn't it? So, yeah, they just need the sale as soon as possible. We keep saying that, and there doesn't seem to be much, headway being made in that regard. So, yeah, it's just a case of just hoping some good news happens in the near future, but we'll have to wait and see on that front. We'll have a quick break, Justin, shall we? After that, we'll go through the rest of the teams who haven't picked a key player yet over the past 2 episodes. Welcome back to the Second Tier podcast. We're here picking a key player for every team in the Championship this coming season, and we've done all the teams so far from Birmingham City to Sheffield Wednesday. That means we're on to our final 6 teams, and we're kicking off this part with Southampton, the second favourites with the bookies to win promotion this coming season. Who have you gone for as their key player for the coming season, Peachy?
I've gone with Shea Charles. Shea Charles is the player I think he's in my top 3 of most I'm looking forward to watching this season and seeing how they develop. Big call from me, but he was brilliant last season, wasn't he, on loan at Sheffield Wednesday? He really, really was. He was a top 3 performing defensive midfielder alongside Vinny Sosa and Ibu Adams. But he was also one of the top performing midfielders as well. He was brilliant, really, really good. And if I think Southampton will favour a defensive shape and have a lot more resilience under Will Still, and that will hold out, then I think Shea Charles has to be central to that. He was unlucky last season not to be, awarded last season in our inaugural awards at the end of the campaign. But what he possesses is that ability to win the ball, but his quality with it as well. Last year was a coming of age season for Shea Charles, and this season there's potential there to be a top 3 performing midfielder in the entire division.
Yeah. Well, he was a very high-performing midfielder last season, Monty, and he was the standout player in a struggling Sheffield Wednesday side. Well, he was struggling in the second half of the season anyway. But we're both big fans of him because he's got a lot of potential. I mean, he was being linked with Arsenal back in January, which seems a bit mad, doesn't it? But I've gone for Southampton's key player as Ronnie Edwards. Now, I imagine as people start to make their predictions for the new season, they'll look at Southampton's squad and think, God, there are some very good players in there. And absolutely right, there's a lot of recognisable names. But I really think someone who will be a star for them this season is Ronnie Edwards, who's possibly a less recognisable name for some who don't follow the AFL that closely, but anyone who does will know how much of a talent he is. He broke through at Peterborough, making nearly 150 appearances before the age of 22. Southampton signed him for $3 million last summer, but he barely featured for them last season, went on loan to QPR back in January and was tremendous. QPR fans were desperate to get him back, but hopefully he's now going to get his chance at Southampton because everything I saw of him at QPR indicated to me that he's capable of playing for a top-end championship side, and I want to see that happen because as far as cultured English centre-backs go, he's one of the most promising ones we've got right now, and I want his development to continue. I'm just slightly concerned about how bulbous the Southampton squad is looking because I counted 33 senior players on their books earlier. I'm hoping that doesn't affect the game time of the likes of Ronnie Edwards or Shea Charles, for that matter, because Southampton have got a pretty big squad, Justin.
Yeah, you talk about cultured players, by the way. He's a classic in the sense that he wears a headband, but with a middle parting as well, and he looks slick, a bit like a FIFA pro clubs sort of miscellaneous player. He's got that sort of vibe about him.
He's also very handsome, Justin. In terms of most handsome players in the Championship this season, he must be up there.
It's this discussion for another day. I'm telling you, we need a dedicated podcast episode on this. We know this, but it's a really strong finish at QPR last season. He's a tidy ball player, a player who probably perfectly fitted the mould of Russell Martin, who he was recruited under. I think my only doubts with him is just how many players are ahead of him in the pecking order and whether or not he will get that chance. Because, as I say, he was brilliant for QPR last season. Is that enough to convince those at Southampton that he's capable of playing in a team who are going to be pushing for top 6? That's another question.
I think it should do, personally. I've been looking in pre-season and Edwards wasn't featuring, but he was with England under 21s for the Euros, wasn't he? And I think that's why he wasn't playing earlier, but he did make his first appearance this past week for Saints in a pre-season. So I'm hoping he does, but it's the same with Shea Charles, Justin. We've got 2 players here who were standouts in the Championship this past season, both very young, both got loads of potential. We just don't want to see them sat on the bench for the forthcoming season because that would be very, very disappointing, wouldn't it? So hopefully these guys get game time. It's just Southampton have got a lot of players they've got to try and keep happy this coming season, and maybe they'll be sacrificed for that. Let's go to the next club, Justin. It is Stoke City. Who have you got as their key player?
It's a last-minute change for me, but I've gone with Ashley Phillips. I think bringing him back is absolutely massive. Firstly, Mark Robins has a history of doing very, very good things with young defenders on loan. Go back to his Coventry days. Well, just his Coventry days, really. Leo Ostigard went to Coventry under him. Callum Doyle, Ian Martson, Luke McNally, they've all performed brilliantly under Mark Robins at Coventry. And then there's Ashley Phillips, obviously played a lot under him last season, but he made 35 appearances for Stoke. By all means, being a very important member of the team. Didn't pull up trees, but it's one of those where he was massively impactful. And it adds a lovely composed balance. And I think a full season under Mark Robins, it's very exciting. I actually think a back 3, including him, Ben Wilmot and Maxim Talaverov, is a very, very nice prospect next season. dare I say, Mark Robbins is cooking something at Stoke. They're pulling me in.
Okay. I mean, you talked about Ashley Phillips there and him perhaps not standing out. It's got to be remembered. He was 19 for the whole of last season. In fact, it was his birthday yesterday, Justin. So happy birthday, Ashley Phillips.
No,
It was
reason why I
today,
picked him.
actually. Yeah, it was today. It was yesterday when it was his birthday. So happy birthday to him. He's just turned 20, but that goes to show how young he is because he's, in terms of young prospects at this level, he's got to be right up there. And Stoke had to fight off a lot of competition to get him. So for him to go back to Stoke is really, really good. I'm not sure I agree with you that Stoke are necessarily cooking, because I think up until this point I was actually pretty worried about the business that they've done so far. Any take on that, or do you want to save it for next week?
Let's save it, because I know you're going to try and silence me, which is just it's expected because you're a skeptic, and that's fine.
I'm definitely a Stoke skeptic, and there's plenty of reasons why. But yeah, I guess we'll have a chat about this coming week. I'm looking forward to that, for God's sake. I've gone for Stoke's key player as Ben Pearson. Now, Ben Pearson's a bit of an old school one because he's not the player he once was, but looks like he may be an important one this coming season. That's because Stoke have sold Wouter, who was probably their best player. He's gone to Hoffenheim for an undisclosed fee. And right now, judging from pre-season, it looks as if Pearson's going to be the one replacing him. And, I mean, it's got to be said, once upon a time, Pearson was one of the best midfielders in the division back in his days when he was at Preston. Ever since leaving there, it'd be difficult to say he's been anywhere near those levels. He missed the majority of last season through injury. When he came back, he was in and out of the team as Stoke struggled near the bottom of the table. And so I'm looking at him and thinking, that's a pretty significant downgrade on Wouter, and it leaves me a bit worried about them when it comes to winning the ball back in midfield. But as I say, I've got a few concerns around Stoke's transfer business as a whole over the summer. But yeah, I'd like to think they'll bring in someone else in Pearson's place. I did see Steven Nzonzi's training with them, Justin, which is a bit of a throwback. Didn't realise he was even still playing, but there you go. What do you think?
Yeah, the Steven Nzonzi stuff is fantastic. I think we'd all love that if he went back. But with Ben Pearson, I think if he can stay fit enough, sure, he will be useful. I would like to think Stoke would bring someone in, mainly because Ben Pearson's not started more than 20 games. Oh, sorry, he's only started more than 20 games once in the last 5 years. Exactly. So I do struggle to sort of suggest that he has any ability to be a standout performer for Stoke, because I just think he's going to be a squad player. As I say, I would fully expect them to replace Wouter. That being said, did read that they didn't sell Wouter for a handsome profit either. So some questionable decision making at the top once again, but don't let it distract you from the defensive recruitment, which has been positive.
He's such a Stoke apologist. It's unbelievable, despite all the evidence. Yeah, I will point out the Wouter fee. There seems to have been contradictory reports on this, because I saw one report saying he's been sold for something like 5 to 6 million euros, not pounds, euros, which seems extraordinarily low. But then Stoke say they've made a significant profit on him. So who do you want to believe here? I don't really know. But yeah, whatever the case, Berger is a massive, massive loss without a doubt. And they definitely need to bring in someone else to replace him, because I won't be wanting to rely on Ben Pearson for the forthcoming season. Let's go to Swansea City next. Justin, who is their key player in your mind?
I've gone with Giancarlo Franco. Franco has been linked with an abundance of clubs this summer in Germany and England, owing to a very decent debut season in Championship. Last year, he won the Supporters Player of the Year, so he's certainly held in high regard by his own. But I actually think Franco's going to have a much better season this year, because he's going to link up that transition between the old Swansea and the new, if you like, i.e. that transition between good ball-playing team to something a little bit more practical and flexible. But his ability to win possession, turn it over by playing those short, intricate passes is going to be pivotal and will be the case going forwards. I think in terms of what Alan Shearer will want his midfield to do, it'll be a bit different, and I think that directness will allow Franco to really, really excel.
Yeah, Franco is a top quality player. I'm a big fan of him. He was one of the best ball winners in the entire championship last season, and I think that partnership of him and Ethan Galbraith in midfield could be, it has the potential to be one of the best midfield pairings in the whole division. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how those two work together this coming season. I've gone with Ricardo Santos as my key player for the Swans. And yeah, it's been a pretty mad rise for Santos. 6 years ago, he was 24 and found himself playing non-league football. He injured his knee so badly that he couldn't walk on it and was out injured for 9 months. But after getting back to fitness, he moved to Bolton, helped them get back to the top end of League One, and is now set to make his championship debut this season at the age of 30. And it's thoroughly deserved because for many years now, he's been one of the best defenders at League One level. The reason I picked him out as a key player, though, is because he's got big shoes to fill with Harry Darling's departure. He was so important for the Swans. That's a huge loss. And I imagine over the course of the season, it will be between Santos and the other new signing at the back, Cameron Burgess, for who will be the main centre-back alongside the club captain, Ben Cabango. But I've gone with Santos here because based on pre-season so far, it looks as if it will more likely be him, but they'll both get plenty of game time. And the bottom line is, whoever it is, has got a big job on their hands replacing Harry Darling. But yeah, Santos, definitely capable of doing it, Justin.
Yeah, I think something you've missed as well. He's got very good leadership qualities. Yeah, he was captain of Bolton for a long time, very experienced, which is, again, very, very important. Brom fans weren't overly complimentary of him, upon his departure, but that can be taken with a pinch of salt for various reasons. It'll be interesting to see how he's used. I would fully expect a back four with Ben Cabango and Cameron Burgess as the starting centre-backs, but if Santos does excel in pre-season, that could be a massive, massive thing for him, and that could give him the nod over Burgess. But that being said, there's flexibility there for Sheehan. We know Swansea have played a back three at times under previous managers, under a lot of previous managers, and that could be the same under Alan Sheehan. So having that extra defender in there who is good, who is experienced, who is a leader, I think will be a huge asset for to be a standout player. Maybe not, but as I say, he's got qualities that they didn't possess before.
Well, the other reason why I picked him is because Swansea didn't score a hatload of goals last season. They were not the lowest scorers in the division, but one of the lowest scorers in the division. But they were really helped out by being pretty solid at the back. And that's why someone needs to step up in Harry Darling's place. And Santos is capable of doing that. Burgess is capable of doing that as well. It's going to be one of the two of them, I imagine. So it's going to be fascinating to see how that gets on. Let's go to Watford, Justin. We've got a pair of new boys as their key players for the forthcoming season. Who have you gone with?
I've gone with Nestri Irankunda. Incredible, fascinating story and a player, by the way.
Sorry, I'm laughing because I was wondering how you were going to pronounce the first name. I have no idea, so you might be right, you might be wrong.
Might be right, might be wrong. History tells you I'm probably wrong, so apologies for this. But a very exciting prospect, inspired to sign for Watford, by the way, by the Troy Deeney heroics, of which I think he was just 7 years old when that moment happened, just to make you feel sick.
Right.
Yep. Nice reminder that time is escaping all of us. But I wanted to pick him because Watford need a refresh with recruitment, and they've gone about things, I think, very quietly. And Irankunda looks a very exciting talent. He made his professional debut for Adelaide United, aged just 15, and then went on to score 16 across 3 years. By all means, that is in the A-League in Australia, so standard not as good as other leagues, but nonetheless to score in senior football while not having taken, I don't know what the Australian equivalent is to GCSEs, but you get the point. I think is a very, very incredible thing. And then he went to Bayern. So again, this is a nod to his potential. We was in goal at
I feel like you've really skirted over that, Justin. Bayern, Blooming, Munich. That's quite a big move in a guy's career.
Yeah, he was there for a year, so it was a bit like a gap year, wasn't it?
Still, it's a pretty cool thing, isn't it?
It's a very, very cool thing. It was a new sub a couple of times as well, so they clearly recognise the quality he has. I did skirt over it, but he's there for a year now. He's gone to Watford, so let's just see how it pans out. But the other point I wanted to make is in Goal.com's top 50 wonder kids in March last year. There's bags and bags and bags of potential with him, and with Watford needing that refresh, I think he can be a very nice piece of the puzzle this coming season.
Yeah, I think he got a call up for them in the Champions League by Munich. So yeah, I mean, if they rated him literally just last year, then he must be a pretty good player. Watford fans are obviously very excited about signing him for understandable reasons. How good he actually is, no idea. But I did see a very nice video this past week of him starting to well up a little bit when he was given the 66 shirt at Watford, because he requested it and he wasn't sure if it was going to get approved by the EFL. But when he found out that it was, he started tearing up because it clearly means a lot to him.
He wasn't allowed it at Munich, and it was his first shirt number at Adelaide. So EFL allowed him to do it. It's a very, very nice story.
Yeah, it's one of those wholesome little things that you see every so often, which actually makes you feel good about the world. Let's go to my key player. Now, I've checked how you pronounce this, Justin. I think it's Luca Kjerumgaard. That's the pronunciation I found online. If it's wrong, I apologise. I'm not going to say his name again in this episode. But anyway, he's Watford's new striker, who they've signed on loan from Udinese. Watford getting a player from Udinese. I know, what a shocker. But Udinese signed him from Odense in Denmark for around £4.5 million and then instantly loaned him to Watford. He scored a lot of goals last season in the Danish second tier, not the first tier, the Danish second tier, 17 in 23 appearances he got. How that's going to translate to the Championship, not too sure. But if you're wondering what kind of striker he is, he said, I'm good in the air, I'm a good target player. Oh, and he happens to be 6'6". So, yeah, make your own assumptions there. Ultimately, though, Watford needed a striker because their only other option is Mamadou Doumbia, who's still very young. Is this new guy the answer? Don't know. All I will say is we've got a lot of new expensive strikers coming to the Championship from abroad, particularly Scandinavia. So one of them's got to do it right, haven't they, Justin?
Yeah, you would argue that it is an upgrade on the likes of Milita Rajovic and Vikum Bayo. Yeah, Vikum Bayo, who notoriously scored by accident a lot of the time last season, and I will die on that hill. He did not mean half the things he did. So whether how do you pronounce his name again, Ryan? Sorry, just give me a quick pronunciation.
Let me get it up again. Luca Kjerumgaard.
Kjerumgaard. I mean, we've had an influx of players coming from Scandinavia, likes of Fisgarden, Hegebo as well. We've gone to West Brom, Fisgarden to Norwich. So yeah, we have had an influx of them. So clearly, that's where scouting networks have been dipping in, or unless they're all going through the same one. But I think Watford needed that presence in the final third, and the only thing that worries me a little bit about recruitment, and I know I've picked Aaron Kunda for the same reason, is a lot of these players are very, very young, quite raw still. So that's the only hesitance I would have. That being said, they do look exciting. They do look exciting. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's just I'm looking at a lot of these players, and there's not much proven Championship quality in there, is there? It seems a bit speculative. A lot of their business. So. Yeah, it's an interesting one with Watford. We'll obviously talk about them more as we get towards our league table predictions. But the thing that stood out for me was playing in the Danish second tier. Translating form in the Danish top tier would be difficult to say with the Championship, but the Danish second tier, yeah, interesting. Let's go to West Brom. They're the next club. Justin, who have you got as their key player? I've gone with Tom Fellows. I think this was a bit of an easy one for me. I like Tom Fellows a lot. His form did fall off a little bit in the second half of last season, but I fully expect it to recover heading into this season because he's still very, very young. I think Ryan Mason's philosophy of creating a squad, a cohesive team-based unit could help as well with that. But like I said, his form did dip after Carlos Corberan left, and those qualities of a Corberan team, i.e. those fast transitions on the break, could well be present under Ryan Mason. We need to see the proof in the pudding. But 14 assists last year, good God, that's a hell of a lot of assists, a lot of creativity. He's a direct winger. I think with the firepower of Daryl DK and Oni Hegebo plus Josh Masha, it's a nice group of forwards to be feeding the ball to there, isn't it?
Yeah, well, Fellows, obviously a fantastic talent, continues to be linked with the move to the Premier League. Just a very good player, and he's always capable of hitting new heights. Maybe that will happen under Ryan Mason. As far as my key player is concerned, I was the same as you just now. I was looking at West Brom's forward options heading into the new season, looking pretty good, aren't they? They've got £5 million new signing Elna Hegebo. You've got Josh Madger, who was, of course, to be top goal scorer last season before he got injured. But my key player, I was just looking at who they've been playing in pre-season, and who's that who started every game up front so far for the Albion? It's our old friend, Daryl DK, the man who's only started 18 games in the past 4 years since moving to West Brom for £7.5 million. He's been ravaged by injuries. But is this finally the season where that changes? If it is, I'll die a happy man knowing Daryl DK has finally enjoyed his day in the sun. But in all seriousness, he was a beast at Barnsley several years ago. It looked like a big statement signing when West Brom got him in. And we haven't seen it because of some of the worst luck with injuries I've ever seen a player have. If he can stay fit, he could be lethal. But it's always a big if with him, unfortunately. However, what I will say is this is more than likely going to be his last chance with West Brom because he's now in the last year of his contract. It's now or never, pretty much. If he can't stay fit this season, I don't know where his career goes next, sadly. And the crazy thing is, Justin, he's only 25 still. 25. He was 21 when he signed for them. They've barely seen him. But this has been a significant portion of his career where he spent almost all of it in the blooming treatment room.
It's a desperately sad story, mainly
Justin,
because
he's ruptured both of his Achilles in separate injuries. That's how mad it is.
Yeah, and you know, knowing injuries like I do, I've not done my Achilles, thankfully, but you have to be very unlucky to do your Achilles. It's just landing wrong and a little bit of fatigue that does it. It's ridiculous. So he's desperately unlucky, and it's not like his hamstrings breaking down every 3 or 4 weeks. He's just landed wrong, and it's just things have happened. It's crazy, the story. But if he's fit and he's confident in his body, then I agree he can be an outstanding proposition. The only question mark I'll have is whether or not injuries have taken a toll on what were one of his main playing assets, is that explosiveness he has. And that's what we'll find out. But I think if he just gets out playing games again, I'll be really, really happy.
Oh, we'd be the happiest pair of podcasters going, won't we, if that happens? And the final club we got, Justin, is, of course, Wrexham. I've gone for their key player as the brilliantly named Liberato Caciacci. And the main reason I picked him is because it's nice to see Wrexham sign someone who's not a striker. They're absolutely obsessed with strikers, aren't they? They've already got Ryan Hardy. They've just signed Josh Windass. They've apparently got £10 million going spare to sign another one. And that's on top of the guys they've already got. Sam Smith, Jay Rodriguez, Ollie Palmer, Jack Marriott, Madhu Fowle. Flipping heck, lads, how many do you need? It sounds like they're going for a 1-1-8 formation next season. Just play all the strikers they've got. Flipping heck. But yeah, on a serious note, I've been looking at Wrexham's squad thinking the rest of this team, other than the front line, needs improving here, guys. Come on, shift your focus elsewhere. And while I won't pretend to know a huge amount about Liberato Caciacci, I thought it might be Wrexham's most expensive signing since the Hollywood takeover. He's a defender from Empoli in Italy who's got 33 caps for New Zealand. Played 33 games in Serie A last season. He's traditionally a left back, but didn't actually play many games there last season. In fact, and sometimes who scored sometimes gets these things wrong. I will emphasise that. But they say he actually played more games as a number 10 last season. Not sure how accurate that is, but I think it's fair to say he likes to get forward. So I would assume he's been brought in as an upgrade on James McLean at left wing back. Either way, it's good to see Wrexham start to properly get going like we expected. We'll obviously be having more of a chat about Wrexham in the coming week and a bit, and we'll be having more of a chat about Wrexham as a whole in tomorrow time, Justin. But before that, who's your key man for them?
I just wanted to quickly say on Liberato Caciacci is that former Newcastle defender Stephen Taylor once described him as the best left back in the A-League. So that's all the approval I need. Well,
there you go. If Stephen Taylor's saying that, then surely that will go. It will make up for horrible pronunciations. Oh, of course, we've got our producer Tom, who's he's part Italian, isn't he? He's probably throwing up the hand signals, listening to our pronunciations of Caciacci. But we'll say no more on that, Justin. Who's your key player for Wrexham?
Max Clueworth. Bit easier to say. Easy enough. Got it wrong though, as we just alluded to.
We didn't allude to it because that's been edited out, but now the world knows that Justin fucked up that pronunciation, so he's not clearly that easier to say.
Well, yeah, not to me anyway. But he won Players' Player last season. He's come through the ranks at Wrexham. He's a completely different story to the one we're used to hearing about. I think that's very important. A lot of the lights shine on the big signings. I've not heard a lot about Wrexham players other than the likes of Paul Mullin and Ben Foster of old, but Max Cleworth has really, really shone at the club since he broke through. He's a good size. I think that's important when you're coming up through from League One to Championship and being young. He's 22, almost 23, 6'3". So I think adapting to the physical rigours of the Championship will be interesting. He was in League One Team of the Season last season, so he's a solid defender, but he's capable with his feet. He's a really, really tidy player. But something I always point out, I think the fact that he's performed to a standard where Wrexham haven't felt like they've needed to upgrade him or upgrade on in that position is a testament to him and his quality.
Yeah, I don't think they need to upgrade him because I think he was Wrexham's best player last season. All the underlying data points to that being the case. And, he's a homegrown talent. Everyone talks about the amount of money Wrexham have and the amount they splash on overaged, over the hill players. But Cleworth is someone who I think is kind of like the symbol of everything good that's going on at Wrexham, really, and how they're transforming careers like his. And I think, if I'm putting my cynical head on, if you're making a documentary, it's nice to have homegrown talents like him feature in the team as well. And I think actually he's probably the one area they don't need to strengthen. I think Zach Brunt as well, who's the another centre half they've got. I think those two in particular, Wrexham tend to play with a back three, but those two in particular are two players who are probably the standout, really, as far as Wrexham are concerned. So they don't need to strengthen there. But as I say, Justin, we'll have more of a chat about Wrexham in Zamora time very shortly. But there we go. This has been the Second Tier Podcast. We'll be back again on Thursday, where it's the start of our predictions episodes. On Thursday, we'll be predicting things like top goal scorer, player of the season, young player of the season, dark horse, and biggest underachiever, and much, much more. Then after that, it's our league table predictions. Time to put our necks on the line, Justin, and give all the listeners a spoiler for how the season's going to end.
Oh, it's exciting. It's exciting. It's nerve-wracking because people disagree with you, but that's why we're here. We're just here to add our thoughts.
Well, people will point out we had a bit of a stinker last season with some of our predictions. The season before, we had basically the best anyone's ever had in terms of league table predictions, with us predicting Leicester first and then Ipswich second. Only people to do that, by the way. But look, it's all a matter of opinion. We probably watch more football than anyone else does, more Championship football than anyone else does. So we're in a pretty good position to give our takes, aren't we, Justin? So yeah, we'll be here making our predictions in the coming weeks, ladies and gentlemen. It's a very exciting couple of weeks as we count down towards the new season, which is really not that far away anymore. But if you're a Patreon subscriber, don't go anywhere, because we've got the extended edition of the weekend show coming up, which we like to call Zamora Time. We'll be talking about who's the most handsome manager in the Championship, has Justin changed his mind on Wrexham, and Daddy Dilks. Ugh. If you're not a Patreon subscriber, sign up to get some more time in every single weekend show. Head over to patreon.com/second tier. Link is in the description of this episode. But that's just about time for us here on the Second Tier Podcast. As I say, we'll be back again on Thursday for some predictions. I've been Ryan Dilks.
I've been Justin Peach.
And a big thank you for listening.